Hello and welcome to this Badge Chat K-12 broadcast with Chalon Bridges of DIY.org. She is the Director of Learning and Partnerships at DIY.org, and we're super excited to have her join us fresh off of her trip to Austin, Texas for South by Southwest EDU. And welcome, Chalon.
Thanks, Noah. It's great to be here.
We are really excited to pick your brain about DIY.org's approach to badges, and I guess a good place to start is just an overview of DIY.org and what is your approach to badging?
Sure. So DIY has been around for about 2.5 years, and it's a site and app where kids can learn and explore just about any passion they might have. And the basic system is that we've got a series of skills. So right now we've got over 170 skills, and underneath each of those there's around 10 to 12 challenges that kids can do. And when they have completed 3 challenges under any given skill, they earn a badge. And the intent there is that the badge is kind of signaling an initiation, an introduction into an area. So whether it's beekeeper or surrealist or back-end dev or mycologist, whatever skill they've decided to try and pursue, they start earning their digital badges when they've completed 3 challenges. And the kids in our community record themselves in response to the challenges that we put out, so they can either video themselves or take a photograph, and so they're kind of building evidence and connecting that to every single challenge and every single badge that they earn. So once they submit their response to a challenge, they not only start earning badges, but it starts a conversation within the community where other kids can ask, how did you do that, or give them props. But it's a way for them to share what they have done and begin a conversation.
I love that you are requiring 3 pieces of evidence before issuing the badge. I'm wondering how you arrived at that number, and it just strikes me as a way of recognizing for anyone viewing the badge, this was not a one-off.
Yeah, you know, and it's something we're grappling with, and I would love advice and experience from this community. You know, some days I think 3 maybe isn't enough, because it's really, you know, for some kids they look at the 10 challenges and they look for the easiest ones, and they're just trying to, you know, get to the badge as fast as possible. And then we have other kids that are real craftsmen. You know, they're tackling some of the hard challenges, and we're still grappling with how to help kids really ultimately own and have agency over their learning and be intrinsically motivated along the way to really take on, you know, a wide range of challenge levels, not just the easy ones. So the 3 challenges is a starting place where they're not just, you know, doing one and instantly earning a badge, but I suspect that there's more we could do there in order to really signify mastery, not just you're initiated and you're now a member of this group, but like you have taken it to a whole other level.
So it sounds like maybe some of the internal conversations there might be going down a route of creating leveled badges and tiers.
Yeah, that's a possibility for the future. I'm just aware that we're not clearly signaling that yet, and it's an important part of the whole process. So,
you know, something I love that you already hit on there is that these badges are inside the DIY community serving as credentials. Can you talk more about how young people are looking towards folks who've already earned the badges in order to seek advice and counsel on their own journey?
Yeah, so under any challenge that we have, there is a screen that's pretty much a portfolio of all the submissions that other kids within the community have done in response to that challenge. And frankly, I think most kids look at those first and don't even look at the challenge directions. I mean, they're using it as an inspiration board to see what have other kids around the world done in response to this. And what's great is that it's really a community of makers and doers and creatives. So there's this respect. You know, the kids are looking for peers that have done something that completely wows them, and they want to know, how did you do that, or how did you think about it, or how could I try to do that? And they begin mentoring each other in the process. It's really interesting. We did an analysis recently just looking at the kids within our community that had the most followers and were the most active. And there's often two strategies for kids to build their community. One is kind of what I would call a sales approach, where they're saying, follow me and, you know, like me, and they're actively recruiting. Then there's this other category of kids that just help a lot. They comment on other kids' projects. They're available to answer questions. They continue the conversation. So even if they've posted a project a year ago and a kid today discovers it and asks them a question about it, they'll respond. And those are the kids that are at the top of our community. They're the ones with the most followers, which I think is fascinating. It's like this, the teachers, the helpers, the peer mentors win. And so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it reminds me of Adam Grant's book, Give and Take. It almost sounds like just proving his case point that givers are such a valuable part of any community.
Yeah. So they're not just showing off what they've done and earning the badges for themselves, but they're giving back. So it's pretty great.
Yeah, and you know, you touched on something about how students go straight towards viewing the badge system, and you know, in K-12 education, we would probably get excited about that and term it goal setting and planning and managing, and using it to determine a learning pathway. And so that's really reaffirming to hear that that's naturally happening in this community where students are gravitating even without a teacher telling them to go there.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering specifically to kind of touch on the whole, you know, gamification aspect and how we use it to kind of intentionally drive and impact behaviors. And so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about what you're seeing in the community with user behaviors in response to the degree that you can track it anyways, the badge earning.
Yeah. So, okay, let's see. Just on a really practical level, we're able to track our most popular skills and challenges, obviously. And so they're Maker and Minecrafter and Illustrator are our top 3 skills. And our top 3 challenges that most kids just respond to are, we have one where they have to introduce themselves, so that's kind of low-hanging fruit and easy for all of them to do. But then drawing animals, photographing a landscape, and making art in Minecraft are the top ones underneath that. So we get this really interesting insight into if kids on their own time and of their own free will could learn whatever they want, what are they choosing? What are they pursuing? We're also able to see what are the least popular items. So right now, unfortunately, beekeeper is our least popular skill. And systems admin hasn't garnered a huge community yet. But the cool thing about the site is, you know, I don't know what it was like for you when you were a kid, but I remember, like, one day I'd want to be Sherlock Holmes, and the next day I wanted to be an astronaut, and we've really given kids this open playing field to explore lots of possibilities, to be a full human being, to come up with their own portfolio of passions, and rather than specializing in just certain silos, it that open playing field allows them to try things they may never have heard of or considered before. And so, you know, it's natural that some things rise to the top and others do not. And we keep looking at all of that. We get lots of suggestions from kids on new skills to launch, and that informs a lot of our plans. So really surprising things have come from that. We had one member of our community, Mr. Onk, who suggested a surrealist badge, which, I mean, who would ever think of a surrealist badge? It was a total hit, and the kids submitted great responses to our challenges there. So we had, you know, visual pun or define surrealism, and so we've got all these clips of kids around the world defining surrealism, and we would have never thought of that as a popular badge item, but it's kind of quirky, and the kids, you know, galvanized around it, and great. So it's really fun to see some of those surprises bubble up.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And you touch on something that in, you know, traditional education spaces is just such a powerful tool, and that is asking learners what they want from their learning.
Yes. Yeah, so this is something that's really emerging when we look at what's happening within our community, is that finding your passions and your passion affinity group, if you just give kids that opportunity, they will run with it. And then the other thing is just how hungry kids are for challenges. I mean, these are not simple things to do. Like, for instance, under our archery badge, one is go build a bow. But kids do it. They give it a try, and then they show us how they've accomplished it. And it's just sort of taught me how hungry and eager kids are just for an opportunity. And within our framework, there's not much teaching that goes on. It's not like we're telling them precisely how to build a bow. We're just putting out the challenge and saying, you figure it out. And they bring their own curiosity and creativity to bear as a result. And so we get a wide range of projects, and that actually stimulates really interesting conversations within the community. So if we overly prescribed it and said, everybody build a bow, here's how you do it, you wouldn't get very interesting results from that. But these sort of broad challenges create really vibrant learning communities. So it's pretty exciting to see.
Yeah, and I really, just thinking in terms of assessment in schools, what you're touching on are sort of constructed response versus a multiple choice where there's a correct A, B, C, or D answer.
Yes.
And I think that really speaks to the skills that we're hearing from industry that they want. They want kids who don't, you know, bring a B, C, or D correct answer, but know what to do with a blank slate.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So
I have another follow-up question to the sort of student suggestions. I'm curious if you're having young people who have already, independent of DIY, gone and created their own badge, maybe on Credly or something, where they're saying, hey, this isn't a badge you can get on DIY, but if you do this, you know, go here and I'll issue my own badge. Have you seen that in the community where people have said, well, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it?
Sure, sure. And they draw their own badge designs and post them, and there's all sorts of creativity there. And we're really aware that at some point in the near future, we really need a structure in place so that kids can create and add their own ideas to the system that we've started. You know, we began something, but their imagination and creativity is kind of the next important step in all of this. So yes, they come up with their own ideas and designs, and are eager to be a part of creating those badges and conceptualizing them. We also did a really interesting thought experiment in our San Francisco office a couple months ago, where we just kind of thought of, okay, what are the skills that every human should have? Like, let's set aside the skills that we've created and just do a fresh brainstorm. And we came up with things like, you know, every human should be able to tell a good story, to repair. And what was really interesting about that experiment was that that connects to challenges that don't necessarily fit into the badges we've created to date. So for repair, for instance, a surgeon repairs, a mechanic repairs, knowing how to sew is a way of repairing. It connects to lots of different skills. And so I can see downstream this opportunity for types of badges that are kind of enduring traits that you can learn through lots of different lenses and silos, and yeah, so I think that's exciting and has possibility.
That is really awesome. I want to go back to something you said when you were touching on, the data you're getting on some of the least popular, as you called it, badges that students pursue. And, you mentioned beekeeper, and it really just got me thinking about this idea that I'm sure you heard a lot about at South by Southwest EDU the other day is, equity in educational technology. And if, maybe beekeeping would be more popular if more students had access. One of my favorite hashtags lately has been techquity, this idea of equity in educational technology.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts just about this idea of equity and what you're seeing in regards to that at DIY.
Yeah, that's such a great question. Yes, so the trend with all of our least popular skills is that they require some materials and probably access to some kind of mentorship, to help. It's not something that you could just instantly on your own figure out. And how we support kids with that is something we've been really grappling with at DIY. So we realize that we've built this vibrant community of kids who on their own are interested in figuring out their passion and just trying things. But what do we do for the kids that don't quite know how, or don't have that awesome mentor at their side already, or don't have access to the materials at hand? So we've been working on kind of a private experiment, a new app in the last couple months that we're calling DIY Camps, that will really allow kids to work in small groups and be paired with a mentor and work on these 1-month learning sprints, so that if you wanted to be a beekeeper and you didn't know how, and you didn't have a parent that had any interest in helping you with that, you could join a group and be paired with like your geek soulmates of the world that also wanted to do this, and work together and get the kind of mentorship you need to be able to pursue that. And so that's one potential way to help with equity and help kids who want to learn be able to do that, even if they don't have the right infrastructure in place. That said, materials are still an issue. They cost money. So, we've had to start with really simple things that only require household items. So, like in toy hacking camp, the first challenge was, okay, take tinfoil and hack a toy, turn it into something else. And so things that are kind of cardboard, glue, just things you can make and create without having to go spend money in order to work on a challenge and to apply your imagination. So
that is such an exciting sort of down the road trend. I'm sure that there's a lot of us who will be really enthusiastic when that goes out of beta and we can all access it for our learners. One final question I have for us data geeks is, I'm sure with just the volume of users that you have, that you all are getting your finger on the pulse of some really cool data and trends. And without revealing any trade secrets, I guess, what can you sort of point us to that we should know about that's exciting there in the DIY.org headquarters?
So let's see. I feel like there's this real opportunity, and we have not cracked this nut yet, but like what we're seeing is a world of really creative kids, and that's what we want. We want to create a world where kids are fearless to learn and fearless to create, but they're providing evidence every day of of their creativity in response to these challenges. And so I feel like figuring out some way to surface that and tell the story better about progressions in creativity, progressions in curiosity. I it's really different than a GPA or a standardized test score or all the metrics we have in place right now to evaluate kids. And when they submit and build a portfolio, it's easy for them to then show evidence for what they've done. But I think there's a way we could take it to the next level and start to tell a story about creativity and how you measure that and what that meter looks like around the world. And so yeah, I think that's a fruitful area that we're just beginning to explore and try to figure out. So if anybody in the community has ideas or contacts, I would love to hear.
That is just awesome. I love that folks like DIY.org are going to be partners in the future to just sort of, like you said, get us to a place where we can start to measure students on kind of skills that matter, like you said, storytelling and creativity. That right now, we really don't have standardized tests that are producing data on who these are as learners. I guess a great way of saying that is finding out things you can't Google, and I think it's really exciting that you all are on that path and that you're, creating badges that are going to help tell that story.
Yes, yeah, that's it. That's a great way of putting it. Like, how do we help kids tell the story of their awesomeness? And so that's what we're working on and trying to figure out.
Well, Chalon, I just want to really take a moment to thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. This has been a super inspiring chat for me. For anybody out there, we are Badge Chat K-12. We are every Monday on the Twitter at 6 p.m. Eastern. Hashtag Badge Chat K-12. We are all about learning, sharing, and collaborating around digital badges and what we can use them for in order to help our learners. Chalon, thank you again very much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Thanks, Noah. It was a total pleasure. Can't wait to continue the conversation.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.